So, in modern world, if we were to address many federalized bodies, institutions like U.S. Supreme Courts or the governments, European governments, many more world leaders, how do they reflect on the old ideas? How are they possibly the uh, monarchs of the modern world,
Right.
and how do they react on this idea of enlightenment?
Right. So really good questions and a really great way of bringing it to the concrete present. Yeah. So a great example is what's happened in the U.S. in the judiciary and through an organization called the Federalist Society. And they're very consciously uh, a group that has formed around this concept of living together, a society that's highly unequal. And so the Federalists were some of the original founders of the they were some of the original founders of the U.S. state, right? They were part of making the Constitution. They were bankers. And so one of the things that they were really opposed to is democracy. They wanted to bring into the U.S. some of the traditions of the British monarchy. And so a lot of, as we know, one way of thinking about the U.S. Government, the state, is it's kind of underdeveloped. It's like the first revolution, but it was already, you were getting hard breaks and hard limits on how much democracy could develop. So things like the judiciary were particularly built to limit democracy. And we can see now that's really because of the massive political mobilization, particularly of elites. So we can think of economic elites like the Koch brothers, the Scaife Foundation, the Olin Foundation. These are all foundations where, as we've seen, as we've built up massive economic inequality, and you have these big billionaire families, right? Like the Kochs, like, Elon Musk and so forth. What they're doing by building up all this excess wealth, this excess agency, and taking it from just like billions of people around the world, what they're doing is they're buying themselves excess capacity to control politics and control the judiciary. So they funded the Federalist Society starting, I think, back in I think it was the late 70s. And by today, it has about 70,000 American lawyers involved in it, and the Federalist Society controls 5 members of the U.S. Supreme Court were from this Federalist Society. Their whole agenda is de-democratization, inequality, inegalitarianism, anti-enlightenment, and they use anti-enlightenment tools like, say, for example, the Catholic legal tradition is really strong in thinking about the ways that people can live together under highly unequal conditions. So some of that has made its way into many law schools, definitely into the Federalist Society. Of course, the Federalists themselves were not, necessarily of that faith, but they were from a faith, banking, that really, really needs inequality, right?
So that's how they make their strength. So actually, what the world we are living in, so-called democratic, is not democratic. It's what the idea derived by them to keep us contained, limited to our potential.
Right.
So,
and misunderstanding what democratic could be, right?